Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And welcome back to the 458. Today we're going to talk about how I used real estate in order to put myself in a position to purchase the 458. Now, when I talk about real estate, my preferred real estate is single family homes. So I look for single family homes in communities that I would want to live in. And once I identify that particular home, then that's when I start doing my research. Now I'm going to talk about a specific home that I purchased with the 458 in mind. Now this particular single family home I purchased several years ago because I knew in order for me to be able to obtain this 458, I would need to raise some serious capital in order to be able to do that. So I purchased this house. I actually got it through a bank foreclosure. And basically what that is when a bank lends a borrower money to purchase a home, that's a contract. And if that borrower doesn't honor that contract by not repaying the bank in a timely manner, the bank has the right to sue that borrower through what we call a foreclosure action. So this particular property was a bank foreclosure. Now, me being in the financial industry, one thing I understand about banks and real estate, banks are not in business to own investment real estate or to own single family homes. That's not their business. Their business is lending money, getting a fair return on that money over a period of time, and then getting their principal paid back. When that doesn't happen, the bank has a right to foreclose on a property. In this particular case, the bank took this property back through foreclosure. They initially had it listed at $225,000. I offered the bank $190,000 because I knew the only thing the bank wanted to do was get their principal back from their loan that was owed to them. They definitely accepted my offer of $190,000, so I took the property, purchased it for $190,000. Now this property was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a 2-story home, really nice home, little over 2,000 square feet. So, you know, a good sized family could move into this property and lease it from me with no problem. And that's what happened. So I leased the property for $1,700 a month, and my loan that I got on the property was for $152,000. So I put $38,000 down. I did a conventional mortgage. I put 20% down. I had a 30-year fixed loan at 5.25% interest. Keep in mind, guys, this was several years ago when I bought this property, so rates were not as good as they are today for 30-year fixed mortgages. And plus, it's investment property. Now, where did I get the $38,000 from? I took the $38,000 out of the equity out of my home. And I know some of you guys don't believe in that, but I'm of the belief that, you know, it does me no good to have equity tied up in my home that I can't tap into to be able to make more money. So I'm okay with taking equity out of my home by way of an equity line in order to purchase that property, and that's exactly what I did. So the $38,000 came out of my equity line on my home, and I financed $152,000 on a 30-year mortgage. My payment was roughly $840 a month. Keep in mind, my rental income was $1,700 per month. So right off the bat, you guys can see my gross was $860. That was my gross after I subtracted my mortgage expense, which is my principal and interest mortgage payment. It was about $860. Now from there, I also have to subtract out my property insurance and my property taxes, which total about $4,000 for the year. So that's another $360 that I have to subtract off of the $860. So that leaves me with $500. What I also did was I always build a little reserve for repairs and things like that. So I subtract another 100 every month for reserve, so that when you get a leaky faucet or you have to replace a garbage disposal or something like that, I'm able to tap into that reserve and take care of that. So let's minus out an extra $100 for that. That leaves me $400. Now, the interest on the equity line that I took the $38,000 out, I'll have to take that in consideration too. The good news is, the way I do my taxes, my personal taxes, I'm able to deduct interest expense for my primary residence, which is my home. So a good portion of that interest I write off anyways through my tax return. Now, I'm not a tax advisor or anything like that, so your situation might be different than my situation. But in my case, I'm able to write off or deduct the interest expense for my mortgage and for my equity line on my home. So I'm not going to include that, minus that out of my 400, since I'm already taking care of that through my taxes. So you take the $400 a month is what we call my net income for the property. Keep that in mind, because we'll come back to that number. Now fast forward 3 years later, I get ready to sell the property. Now the tenants who had been leasing the property from me wanted to buy the property. So I settled on a price of $240,000 with them. I paid $190,000. Now I did not have to use a realtor, so in the state of Florida, that saved me about 6% of my selling price. So I didn't have to pay any realtors, because I just simply drew up a contract with my tenant and they purchased the property from me. So that was $50,000 net to me on the sale of that property. Now let's go back to the $400 per month that I was getting in net profit. I simply took that $400 a month and applied that to the principal of the loan over a 3-year period. So that was another $14,000 in equity that I had built up in the house, because I was just paying the mortgage, paying the principal down with my net income from the property every year. So net, I was about $65,000 to the plus on that particular $190,000 property that I had put $38,000 of my own money in out of my equity line, out of my home. Now you're asking, well, what happened to the $38,000? You still owe that? Not necessarily. I paid that off as well, because if you think about it, my loan was for $152,000. I sold the property for $240,000. So I took the difference between the $240,000 and the $152,000. I took that amount and paid off my equity line. So at the end of the day, I was about $65,000 to the plus. $50,000 from the net sale of the property, plus $14,500 for the equity that I had built up in the property for taking the $400 per month and paying down the principal. Because I didn't need the income to live on. I had a goal in mind of raising as much as I could so I could get this 458 that's in the back of me. So I took that $65,000 and I purchased the 458. Now I will talk about how much I paid for how much did the 458 cost me, and I'll talk about monthly payments and how I'm paying for those monthly payments on the 458 in another video. But today I wanted to just simply give you guys a real life example of how I bought one property, and I bought it through a foreclosed, it was a foreclosed property, so it was a bank owned property that I had purchased, and how I leased the property out and banked and paid down the principal with the profits. And then at the end of the day, when I sold the property and got out of it, net, I had $65,000 to put down on my 458. So you don't have to have a lot of money, guys, in order to make this happen. You can do it at any price point. But for me, the right price point typically for these single family homes that I'm comfortable with is between $250,000 and $400,000. Now this example I gave you was less than that, but the property value was about $250,000. I just got a good deal on it because I got it as a bank foreclosure. Okay guys, I hope that information was helpful. If it was, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Drop me some comments in the comment box below. And if you have any extended questions, go to my Instagram, which is @RichardFame28, and follow me on Instagram and DM me with any of your questions that you need a little bit more in-depth discussion on. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit today. I hope this video was informative and helpful. I would ask you to share the video. I would ask you, if you're stopping by the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. And till the next one, guys, peace.